Hey, 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 it's your boy Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show. And we have another interesting guest with us today. That seems to be the theme of the show lately. We might have to reconsider how we do things. Normally it's just me and some ad hominem and a couple things here and there. But lately we've had the honor of some really interesting guests. So today we have Jason INGBERG with us. Jason INGBERG is an Esquire. Jason INGBERG is, and how you do your show prep. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, the gentleman we have on the show today is the white Johnny Cochran. That's right, I said it. He's got this incredulous look on his face, ladies and gentlemen, but do your homework on him. He is the type of attorney that likes taking on challenges. He likes to take on the big cases, not the little stuff, the big cases. And as you know, as with the water issue in Michigan and things like that, those lawyers who have the grit to take on the big cases are also taking on big corp. They're taking on powerful forces. And so they're taking a great risk. Jason INGBERG is one of those people that doesn't have a problem taking the great risk for the people. In fact, I think one of his mottos of his business is, we don't deal in cases, we deal in people. That should give you the idea of what type of attorney Jason INGBERG is. So without any further ado, we're going to just dive right into it. As you know, the topic of today's show is when life hands you lemons. So we're going to be talking about something dealing with lemons, perhaps the lemon laws, things like that, cars that don't exactly do what they say they're going to do, snake oil salesman, things like that. But did you know that he's also a podcaster like yours truly? He has a podcast show too. Now, some people have egos. Egos get in the way because I'm in the game and I'm better than you. Anything you can do, I can do better. You know that routine. Well, Jason isn't that type of person, and neither is yours truly. So, one fellow podcaster to another. Jason, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much for that illustrious introduction. You ought to come with me to court and just be my hype person as I take the podium every time. I think the juries would love that. I really appreciate the work that you've done. Also, like you said, you are a podcaster, and I know that you want me to sort of take the reins and carry this episode for you, and I will. I have no doubt that I have enough fodder. We can do a 10-hour episode, but don't worry, we're going to keep it concise, everybody.
Trying to
The
run Joe Rogan out of business, right?
the thing that I ought to have done research, and I'm sure it's somewhere out there, but I have to ask, where did the term unicorn? I know you grew up on the south side of Chicago, but is unicorn just a fanciful item in the show name? So this way you flag to people that you are indeed very unique? Or is there some deeper meaning behind it?
Well, imagine being a young man on the south side of Chicago, and you may or may not know this, but I kind of lean right. I've always leaned right. And when you lean right on the south side of Chicago, that would make you about as rare as a unicorn.
It's very, very cool. And hopefully you'll indulge me and we can get a little bit into your trajectory. I do podcast myself and may as well plug it since you brought that up as part of my introduction. I've had very notable attorneys on the podcast. OJ Simpson's lawyer comes to mind, Carl Douglas. He was the youngest member of the Dream Team. Alan Dershowitz, who was part of OJ's appeal team. I've had some folks that aren't legal eagles themselves, but they have legal issues or some kind of legal adjacent things. For example, I had a guy named Ari Nagel on the show. He's a professor out in CUNY in the East Coast, and he has fathered 200 children, typically by bringing the sperm samples to people that want to use them. And he was banned from certain countries from fathering more kids, and he's had some interesting paternity suits as well, mostly
He's
in
trying to he's trying
relation.
to take Abraham on a task. Like, Abraham was supposed to be the father of many nations. What's up with this guy?
Yeah, yeah, he's had quite a fascinating run as a father. I've had some folks that recently, a woman that's a PI attorney and the different cases that she's had to deal with. And podcasting's been an interesting way to build my own name, gain credibility, learn from people, have in-depth conversations. I know that you have some interesting stuff that maybe we ought to do either a crossover episode, but I'm going to ask you this right now. Like, what was it like? You were a police officer. Is that where you developed some of your right-leaning aesthetic in your profile?
No, when it comes to that part of me, because we can be political beasts if we choose, and we can be into politics if we like. But I would like to believe that none of us are all about our politics. We're more multiphasic than that. But to answer that question, no, law enforcement was a result of my right leaning mindset, which I picked up as a 10-year-old on the south side of Chicago. Do I regale you with the story, or is that enough of an answer?
If you have a story from your formative years, I would love to hear it. If you can articulate that, your political leaning started from being a 10-year-old. It sounds like you're running for public office almost.
No, no. Okay. Have you ever seen the cartoon Boondocks?
Yes,
Okay, you seen Riley, right?
sure.
I was Riley before Riley was Riley, okay? And this is back in the 1970s on the south side of Chicago. So real quick, because again, this is about you and some of the things that you're doing. So I'll indulge. Here we go. Imagine a certain night on the south side of Chicago. My mom had left the home to hang out with her friends. I was what you would call a latchkey kid. It was a term from the 1970s where I'm a latchkey kid. There must have been 12 locks on my door. The latch here, twist here, slide there, as if though it was a scene from Get Smart. That was the door to my little apartment that I lived in with my mom. Now, this particular night, it was extremely violent. And I Googled it now as an adult. The month and year that I'm talking about was listed as one of the most violent summers or seasons of Chicago in 1974. So there I am, a young man at home alone, and the repeats of the gunfire, pop, 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 the screams of the women, ah, the sounds of the sirens, woo, woo, woo. This is what's in my 10-year-old brain, and it's smothering me. So I slammed down the window because I couldn't take it no more. I felt like I was in Afghanistan before I even knew what Afghanistan was. And so I turned on it, a chance to turn on the TV. And there was this guy named Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the governor of the state of California." It was a gentleman named Ronald Reagan. Well, I had to focus my attention on something. I had to drown out my community. I just focused on Ronald Reagan in that tan suit and the brown and dark brown striped tie. And this man, everything that came out of his mouth resonated to me. He wasn't talking about death, dystopia, the world's coming to an end, the sky is falling, you're black and they don't like you. He wasn't talking any of that. He was talking about life, the future, and a shining city on the hill. And my imagination back in those days was hyper. So I could actually see the shining city on the hill. And I was like, I'd rather live in a shining city on the hill than this damn crappy ghetto that I'm in right now. And so my mind told me, whatever this man is, I want some of that. I want to be some of that. And there are times in our lives where something can be absolutely transformative, and it can happen just like that. That show, the Johnny Carson show that aired that night while I was watching the show, changed my life. I've been a Republican ever since I was 10 years old. There was no way I could subscribe to the Democrat Party because I lived it firsthand every day, what was happening to me in my neighborhood. And I was like, and then I'm gonna have to stop and make this show about you again. I had the wanderlust when I was a kid. There were two times that the police actually brought me back home because I got lost. Even as a child, because in Chicago, you got long blocks that just go on forever. And so I would just walk. And I would walk so far as to walk into other communities that didn't have broken windows, that didn't have brown grass or whiskey bottles on the ground. And the people were nice. They talked to me. "Hello, young man. What are you doing?" Basically, young black boy, what are you doing here? And I was like, "I'm just looking around. So I had the ability to see the differences. And I'm like, something is wrong over here. Everything's right over here. No pun intended when I say right. But and so that's pretty much the genesis story of the Southside Unicorn.
I love that. And I promise I will take the reins. I will tell you some interesting court stories and the
Okay.
most interesting case that got me on this show, the hydrogen car situation, where Toyota, the most reputable brand, is just absolutely screwing customers over left, right, and center in California. Something though that
Can't
struck
wait to
me,
hear those stories, but that'll hopefully we'll get into it in the next segment, right?
yes, 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 that to my podcasting era and that I'm still on. It's a journey. I've been podcasting for over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people that edited my podcast, he edited about 20 podcasts. His name is Bumdog Torres. Bumdog is a homeless man, career homeless man. He just recently got housed during COVID. It was a little too difficult for him to stay unhoused. But
Mm-hmm.
Bumdog was an unhoused person for decades in the community where I grew up.
Housing challenged.
He's a fascinating individual, and I became very good friends with him. And he's a photographer, a street photographer, on top of having an interesting story himself. And something that he mentioned to me. So he edited my podcast. Again, I got a homeless guy to be editing my podcast, which I think is pretty novel, and he did a beautiful job. His particular episode on YouTube didn't do so well, but the shorts that I cut up on Instagram just absolutely popped off. I'm talking about 30, 40,000 views and thousands of likes. People, really ate him up on Instagram. Fascinating individual. Something that he taught me, which was that I went to UCLA Law School. It's probably one of the most liberal schools in the country. Top 10 liberal school in the country for sure. And then when I left UCLA, I kind of formulated my own thoughts, and the pendulum for me swung back to the middle, where I think everyone should be.
Mm-hmm.
But something that I had thought when I was developing my own line of thought was that racism isn't real. It's dead. It's not really a thing anymore in the United States of America. It's more of a classism thing. It's not race anymore. It's class. And he really articulated to me that I was just wrong. I was just wrong about that. That in principle,
You don't give me
maybe.
the stink eye.
Yeah. I can see you reacting to it, which is where I'm getting at. Like the reality is that maybe there is no fundamental difference between races, and that is a good point of debate. But to say racism is dead and it's only about class is just wrong. And I'm curious your perspective. Like, did you ever experience racism as a black man? What are the unique challenges to Black America that you could educate myself and explain to me to articulate this exact this point of contention that I think a lot of people deep down think. They think, oh, racism's dead. Nothing in this country is holding Black people back. What would you say to counter that notion?
Wow. That almost will consume the entire show, brother. That's pretty slick. What we're gonna have to do, it looks like we're gonna end up cutting up the next segments to get into a lot of stuff. You know the routine, Jason. It's time to get some chips up in the house. So we got to take a station break, but I'll be happy to answer your question when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages. Go nowhere.
When I see a new broadcast from the Southside Unicorn, I can't wait to listen to it. You just never know what he's going to say.
Step 1, train the people only to consume. Step 2, infiltrate adults with the news. Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use. Step 4, separate the right from the left. Step 5, separate the white from the black. Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate a problem made a lie. Step 8, put it on the news every night. Step 9, when people start to fight and divide, take control. This is called situational design.
Hey, my name is Toot Sweet, and I'm New York City's original artist, singing for the cause of freedom. I've spent the last 10 years of my life documenting history through my music. It's like a recipe that's blessing me, bringing out the best of me, aggressively testing me to create my own destiny and understanding, universally accepting adversity and learn more lessons in life than you'll learn in any. And when I'm in need of a dose of reality to escape the liberal land of make-believe, I tune into the Southside Unicorn, where the truth is as solid as New York City concrete. My name is Too Sweet, and you're listening to my friend Ken White on the Southside Unicorn, and this party's just getting started.
You are listening to the Southside Unicorn Show, hosted by my friend Ken White. He'll be back after these messages.
Hey, it's your boy Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and I'm here with an attorney named Jason INGBERG. Now, I feel like I'm about to get, you know me, ladies and gentlemen, I love using the word voir dire. But now I feel like I'm the one that's under a voir dire right now. Because my man Jason, he's just taking me through it. He's asking me these questions, and when we left off in the last segment, we were just about to talk about the notion and the idea of racism. You could consume, Joe Rogan could fill up a whole show on that subject because everybody is going to see it from a different perspective. There's a song called That's Just the Way It Is. Some things will never change. And the guy in the song said, get a job. But he didn't understand all the things that this young man was going through, the irony of life. So, Jason, I'm going to try to tackle your questions, as quick as I can and let us segue into some other stuff. Yes, I have been the recipient of racism, point blank, in my face. The one that will never leave me, and this is, again, when I told you about my sojourn at 10 years of age, let's go back to 9 years of age when Woolworths still existed on the south side of Chicago. Woolworths would be equivalent to Target or Zare or anything like that. It's your local, department store. But Woolworth was world famous for their bright, shiny chrome seats with the red leather topping on them and the deli, the diner. And that diner, they could cook up some food up in there. And so while you're shopping, you smell those grilled onions. You hear the sizzling of the burgers. And I'm a kid. Kids love cheeseburgers, right? Well, for whatever reason, my mom's life was doing pretty good that season. Some months were great. Some months were not so great. But this was a good month. My mom had some extra coins in that purse. You could hear them rattling, And so I'm like, I'm going to get me a cheeseburger today. And my mom obliged. She got me a cheeseburger. I'm sitting there, imagine a little 9-year-old black boy sitting there in front of a counter, just mouth watering for a cheeseburger. Well, when the cheeseburger came, I took it out the brown paper bag that it was handed to my mom in. My mom was handed a brown paper bag with it already in there. I pulled it out and I sit down at the counter, get my elbows ready, and I'm about to bite off into this cheeseburger. But I look to my left. I'm reliving it even as I'm telling you this. I look to my left, and there's this big, fat, white guy. And he's looking at me with a look that scared the hell out of me. He looked at me with a look that made me feel ashamed. He looked at me with a look that I felt I wasn't safe, that at any minute, something real bad was going to happen to me. You can intuit these things. And I look up at my mama. I'm like, Mama. And she snatched me up and said, boy, get away from there. And she pulled me off to the side, see, because that's where I was supposed to eat my burger. Because off by the side. I couldn't sit at the little leather seat and enjoy my burger. And the white man next to me, let my little 9-year-old butt understand that real quick. I've always had a thing about cheeseburgers, even when I was in the Philippines. Whenever we come back to base, I'd always go back to the base restaurant and reward myself with a cheeseburger. I still do it to this very day because I have a right to eat a cheeseburger, not with some people, if you know what I'm saying, Jason.
It's very powerful. It's a very powerful story. Do you have hope for America now, or did the divisive times kind of not give you hope? You have such an interesting vantage point on society because you're a successful Black entrepreneur that's Republican, that's experienced racism at a time when the Republican Party is in power. Yet there's certainly, as an attorney, I could tell you there's a lot of moves that the president is making that are just unethical, unconstitutional, and he knows it. What is your sense
Now,
now?
now, now, you know, you took us into some undiscovered territory. Um, I, my whole life, I've said that as a Black man in America, which, to be honest, Jason, I try not to subscribe to the construct, using the matrix as my ideal. I try not to ascribe to the construct of the word Black man because there's too much in it. It's like reading the code of the matrix. There's a lot that's attached to me acknowledging that I'm a Black man. That shackles me, it headlocks me, it does a lot of things. So I try not to even speak in those terms. I look at the Constitution of the United States of America as my saving grace. The Bible in one hand, the Constitution in another. Unlike what Barack Hussein Obama said, he said, I got a Bible in one hand and a gun in the other. No, Bible in one hand, Constitution in the other. So I check myself against the Constitution all the time. And anybody who tries to lead me, I check them against the Constitution. With all due respect, I wish I had a woman named Deborah Pauley. She's at Esquire too. I wish she was on this show. We might have to come back around, you and I and her, and see if we can't get her to come on. She's a constitutional attorney. And I had the honor of having her on the show for Memorial Day. Pardon me. Jason, it would be contentious and somewhat opinionated. I don't see where President Trump is actually walking outside the guidelines of the Constitution. In fact, he's had to go to court numerous times only to have the courts uphold his position. So I don't know where that's coming from.
I'll respond to two things. That one, and then but the first thing that you said, I was like calling you a Black man, and it's so funny you say that because I hate when people call me a Jewish person because it also is so loaded and one-dimensional. Like I hate the labels and it's all social constructs and it doesn't really, so I'm like offended for you for the way that I'm bringing that up, and it's narrowing and not helpful. It's more to tease out your personal narrative, and which you enriched me with some of the what you
and now that I recognize you hail from the Jewish household, allow me to say Boker Tov.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll respond to the unconstitutional nature. You're right. A good counter to the fact that we're not actually living in a tyranny, we're not actually living in a dictatorship, is the fact that once the court says something, the Donald backs off. He's not trying to go outside the bounds. He's playing within the rules. But for me as an attorney, the time when he was writing executive orders, this was in the very first couple weeks of his presidency, where he was writing
45 or 47?
47, where he's writing executive orders. I actually voted for him the second time, not the first time, or the second. But I just did not think that Kamala Harris was a good option for us.
Oh, that's racist, man. Come on, Jason, you're being racist, man. You're being sexist.
No, she's very shady. And when she was the district attorney out in San Francisco in California, where I'm from, and I don't remember this, but I've followed her career enough and looked into it, where she was prosecuting truancy. So she was prosecuting the youth that didn't make it to school, probably because they're just having wanderlust and they're good kids otherwise, and you're going to put them in jail. And, that just to boost her numbers. To me, that seemed like enough of a reason to not trust this person. And you never really get straight answers out of her. She's very clearly just regurgitating things. And there's something about the fact that Mr. Trump does not read off of scripts. He's very much off the cuff. There's something authentic.
May I interject real quick on this Kamala Harris? There's a lot of names that people have for them. They're all pejoratives. Speaking of Blackism, or Blacks, right? Kamala Harris was obliged to put a Black mom in jail because her daughter had sickle cell anemia and had to recoup at home. And Kamala Harris promptly put the mom in jail for her child not appearing in school. That's how robotic, Naziist, Marxist Kamala Harris is. And so when she tries to shuck and jive on a stage with people like Meg the Stallion to garner votes, I'm absolutely appalled and disgusted at her. You know, on one end, Black people serve a means to an end, but once she has power, like Cruella de Vil or someone, once she has power, it's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a very specific, nuanced story that's horrible that, articulates what I was just getting at. But to go with the Donald, when
Mhm.
he was in office this 47th and he writes executive orders against law firms revoking security clearances and pulling government contracts against the law firms like Paul Weiss for doing things and representing people that he did not agree with, that and then once the court struck the executive order, he obliged.
Mhm.
But before that, the law firms actually bowed to him and settled and gave $1 billion worth of free legal work for things that he thinks are important. And that to me was a really, really horrible thing. And that's what I'm talking about when he violates the Constitution. That's what I'm talking about when it's unethical, because the most fundamental thing in this country, the thing that's the backbone, what makes America great, is the judicial system. You go to China and you invest in China and you open a business there. If you're really successful, eventually the Chinese government will kick down the door and say, "We'd like to be partners with you." And then you say, "Well, I don't want to be partners with you." And then they say, "Well,
Your
then you will
partners
never
right
see
then
your
and there.
family again." Yeah, you'll never see your family again. Oh, I guess we are partners. And that's the reason why the investments in countries like Russia, China, you go further down the line, are less and less because it's unpredictable. Whereas in the United States of America, it's very predictable. The laws are enforced by the sheriff. So anybody can have something that they
I don't
feel.
know, Jason. I mean, I hear what you're saying about Weissman, and I remember him. As I said, I'm a fiend for the Constitution, and I understand your faith in the justice system of America. You're an officer of the court. But when you say Weissman, I say Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden
No, I
got
was
the
saying
Weiss
I was saying
watch.
Paul Weiss. I was saying Paul Weiss, the law firm. They were the law firm that Trump first targeted in his executive order. That's what I was getting at. And
Right.
when you threaten who someone could represent, that's when you really start to attack. Like you brought up Johnny Cochran. Imagine if people would have been able to get Johnny Cochran disqualified. He cannot represent O.J. Simpson. It's so reprehensible. I mean, that would just be anti-ethical to the entire notion of what this country is
Yeah,
built on.
and I'm gonna watch this. I'm going to have to go on both sides. I'm gonna split myself in two. One part of me totally agrees with you, and the other part of me says that the Bidens, the left, and the passionate socialists or whatever, they made this personal with President Trump. They went after his entire absolute life, and they violated canon law too, just to get at him. So I think it's only human nature. I'm not defending it. That's why I say I have to split myself in two, because I have to agree with you, and I can understand where President Trump is coming from. You imagine, Jason, somebody wore you out like an old kung fu movie. You remember back in my day when I was a kid, on Saturday mornings, we'd get up and go watch the kung fu movies. In the kung fu movie, the hero in his infancy would always get beat up by the bad guys. I mean, that was just inevitable. He got his butt whooped, right? And then he went off into the mountains or whatever, and he stuck his hands in some hot sand and practiced a while, and he came back base, and he came back with a white gi on and his hair looking great, and he whooped everybody's butt. Well, 45 was the infant Trump, and he didn't know how treacherous things could get. So they kind of whooped his butt. They got at him. This is Trump 47, and they've come after Ivanka. They went after his son. You see what what's his younger son's name by Trump? Barron Trump.
Barron, yeah.
Barron Trump walked up to Joe Biden and he said something to him that made his butt pucker. I think I figured out what it was. But again, they took, and when I say they, I'm talking about the powers that be on the left. They went a little bit too far. So if Trump in the pendulum swing went a little bit too far too, we got to understand. Somebody tried to blow his head off, and the Secret Service was like, "Oh, were we supposed to protect you?" So you know what I mean? I think he has a right to be a little
Yeah,
pissed.
I mean, it's very easy for me. It's very easy for me to judge. I have no idea what it's like to be under that kind of pressure and to make those kind of moves and to get drunk on that level of power. And who knows? I don't think
There's
I would
that
be.
word. You slipped the word drunk on power in there. If Trump was drunk on power, brother, okay, fine. We're gonna have this conversation. It looks like this is where we are. So here's where we are. Look, honestly, and this is not me advocating violence. I wouldn't do it. But since we're in this area, I'm gonna say it. Jason, I have no doubt in my mind that if Donald J. Trump walked up to the National Forum with all the cameras at array, uh, I got something from my moderator. Okay, watch this. If Trump walked up to a podium today, live, and said, America, we've tried it, and these people are just no damn good. They're crazy. It's over. I'm telling all Americans to go get their weapons, get your houses ready. Law enforcement is going to be on every corner. And those of you who are willing to fight, you simply need to show up tonight because we've had it, my friends. If Trump said that, 50 million people would show up on every corner of every street in America. No, he's very restrained, and he does believe in the Constitution because he wields a power that I don't think we actually intuit yet. He has the power to do a whole lot more than what he's doing, and yet he's in the guidelines of I'm the president for a limited time, so I'm gonna get as much done as I can as fast as I can. The end.
Yeah, I think that him not balancing the budget, he bankrupted casinos and he knows how to file bankruptcy better than anybody else. So I don't know if it was reasonable to expect it, but him not balancing the budget, so many other things that he's doing.
Oh,
I think
watch
his
this. Wow. Okay, because you brought us into the weeds as we both call it in the podcast game. But my thank God I have Connie. Connie's telling me it's time for a break. So you good for segment three?
let's do it, baby.
Outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. And hey, somewhere in here, we just might talk about some cars. We might, but if we don't, we're still having a good time. We got to take a station break, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thinking you don't want to miss segment three because Jason's taking us on a ride. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages. Go nowhere. Hey, 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 Ken White here, host of the Southside Unicorn Show. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, reading, or seeing, won't you support the show? You can do that in two different ways. You can buy merch or do a straight donation. To buy merch, go to www.thesouthsideunicornshow.com. To make a donation of any denomination, use the Cash App. Our account number is the $ SSUS 44. And thank you very much. Hey, listen to me. There's no place I'd rather be. There's nothing more I'd rather do than being right here doing this show for you.
When I see a new broadcast from the Southside Unicorn, I can't wait to listen to it. You just never know what he's going to say.
You are listening to the Southside Unicorn Show, hosted by my friend, Ken White. He'll be back after these messages.
Hey, 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 it's your boy Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and this is the third segment of a show with Jason INGBERG, a attorney at law, a man who is very laser focused. I'm getting that. I'm sure if you've listened to segment one and two, you're getting that too. This is a fun ride for yours truly, the Southside Unicorn, because my, that's that's the essence of our country. That's how it's done. Jason is I don't know if he's a Republican. I wouldn't say that he is. I think he's a highly intelligent man who has intuited that Kamala Harris was just not the move. I don't care how much you liked her. I don't care, how many rap stars she brought on the stage. She just wasn't the move. And Jason, you make me breathe a breath of fresh air, brother, because we can be diametrically opposed on a lot of things, but it's sort of like what was that movie? Gosh darn it, I can't even remember the name of it now. It's got Chris Rock in it. Not Chris Rock. I'm going to forget the whole name of the movie, but it's a Chinese guy and a black guy. They're cops.
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. There were scenes in Rush Hour where when they were fighting the bad guys, they had to cooperate, and he would hold his hands, and he'd kick one of the bad guys in the face, and he'd flip over his back and punch the other guy. There are times when Americans, whether you're left wing or right wing, we gotta fight like the guys in Rush Hour. I'm gonna hold your hand, and Jason, knock that fool out, man. So you not voting for Kamala Harris as a person who would normally, especially, let me get this straight. I'm not being racist. That's not what I'm doing. But man, I got you now. You are a Jewish attorney from Los Angeles. You graduated from UCLA. Woo! You should have told me that before we started talking. But you know what I'm saying? For you to be on that side of the house, and for me to be on the side I am, for you to be white, for me to be black, and so it's a serious yin yang that we're dealing with here. But I wanted to give you, props and recognition that at the moment it mattered the most, you couldn't drop the hammer for Kamala Harris, and thank you for that.
Yeah, I voted for Hillary, but to pull it back to some of the lawsuits that I've been getting involved in, the two main lawsuits that I'm focused on, the most activity right now is against Toyota. Fascinating case. So Toyota created a car that runs not on gas, not on electric, but on hydrogen. Hydrogen H2O. So H2 is an element that's the most abundant in the universe. Hydrogen can be made through water. Hydrogen fuel can be made through water. But the way that 99% of hydrogen is made nowadays is by steam reforming methane. So you take methane, which is the exact fossil fuel that's killing the environment, you heat it up enough, and you can isolate the hydrogen elements of it, and then you can convert that to use it as fuel. And Toyota has fallen in love with this idea since the late 90s, and they pushed for California to build infrastructure around this fuel. And they were successful in getting hundreds of millions of dollars. And you living in California, me living in California, we all paid for it because DMV fees got hiked up by $3 a year. So you don't really feel it, but that revenue.
Wait a minute, Jason. I don't own a hydrogen car and I'm paying for it?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
You can thank the Democrats of California for falling for this absolute just nonsense. And I have sued Gavin Newsom as it relates to this case because he's the one right now that's approving the legislation budgeting on this, giving literally hundreds of millions of dollars that just benefits these Asian companies, Toyota and Hyundai. They're the only ones that got in the game at all. And the reason that he's doing it is because they are just very successful at lobbying. They have a lot of jobs. Until 2017, Toyota was headquartered out in Torrance, California, so Southern California. Mm. Now, the way that they're making the hydrogen is actually worse for the environment. So California has no business helping them subsidize this because they're polluting the environment with this methane-created hydrogen.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought Captain Slickhair was the king of ecology. I thought he was Mr. Green Man, Captain Planet. So you're telling me that because of the lobbyists, aka the bribers, this man is falling into a pit that's worse than, say, taking care of the woolly star mammoth and doing some construction?
Absolutely. They are polluting the environment. It pollutes the environment like by tenfold. I'm not exaggerating. Of gas or electric cars, these hydrogen cars. And they sold about 25,000 of them over the years between Toyota and Hyundai. And that's not a small amount of people to affect because you think about the families. Now, the main thing is these cars don't work. So if it was just this green thing, I probably wouldn't have sued Toyota because I'm not such a good person and I probably pollute the environment too. I don't use paper straws. I drive a gas car myself. So I'm not this like saint of a human being when it comes to the environment myself.
Your car 8 cylinders by any chance?
It's a Volvo sedan. I don't know what it is. But these cars do not work. Now, the reason they were doing it was because battery electric vehicles were growing in popularity and Toyota did not want to become battery electric dependent because Toyota out over there in Japan has huge holdings in liquefied natural gas. So it's very important for them to figure out a way to keep LNG still relevant. And they saw hydrogen as a way to keep it relevant. And they've bet on this numerous times. They've done this in Germany, Norway, Scandinavia. It's always failed. They gave to the Canadian government 45 Murais. You know, I'll tell you the story how I got involved.
That's how you pronounce the name. Thank you for that, brother, because I was curious. Mariah, did they name it after Mariah Carey? What's going on here?
No, it's Murai, which means future in Japan, and the future is bleak for Toyota if they don't shape up their act. This woman calls me in 2023 February, and she's like, "Jason, this car that Toyota sold me is cooking my ass. It's cooking my ass." And I'm like, what is she talking about? What is she saying? Callie Williams, she was the first client out of this. I went up and met her in Northern California when we did a protest at City Hall in the Capitol. And the reason was, in the first generation of this car, the seat heaters would not turn off. So they would randomly turn on. And you can imagine in California how horrible that would be. Yeah, she had to start putting towels, double layer towels on the car so it wouldn't cook her butt. And
Please forgive me. Now I hear what you're saying. I thought she said the car is kicking my ass. It's cooking my
Yes, sir. Cooking her ass. And the whole thing sounded so bizarre to me. She's like talking about hydrogen, and when she goes to fill up at the pump, hydrogen has to be chilled below zero. So often the fuel pump will freeze onto the car. And it will just stay stuck. You'll stay stuck there. Aside from the many electrical problems that these cars have experienced. And everything she was saying sounded so bizarre to me. I didn't even want to take the case because I thought for sure Toyota at the very least would make you sign a waiver, like when you go skydiving or skiing. It's like, if I die, I can't sue you. You know, I thought Toyota would give her some kind of form she could sign. Nope, they didn't give her anything. They sold it to her like it was a regular car, and it looks like a Lexus. It's built on the Lexus frame. So
I've gotten a look at it. Aesthetically, it's a nice car.
It's a beautiful car, and it drives really well when you can get fuel and when it doesn't have electrical issues. But the parking sensors are too sensitive. People have had times on the freeway where it just stops. There's some real issues with this car.
So have there been life changing injuries? Has death resulted as a use of this
There
car?
haven't been any injuries. You got to give credit to the Japanese. They engineered a car. I mean, hydrogen is easily the most flammable thing you could fuel a car with. So the fact that these cars aren't blowing up, that's the reason why I have the case. If the cars were blowing up, it would have gone to way more prominent attorneys. I'm a young man in the game. I've only been an attorney 9 years. So I got lucky that it's kind of this odd in-between thing where it didn't cause any personal injury to people, but the cars do not work. So I represent about 1,000 people that bought these cars, and they are suing the hell out of Toyota, and Toyota does not seem to give a damn about these people. They are pretending like...
question in real quick. When I hear what you're saying, it sounds like that ye old word, and I'll say ye old word because it's kind of old, the class action lawsuit. Has this thing reached the levels where the court has said, okay, you can so enjoin these cases, or are you doing it individually, case by case?
Asking all the right questions. I initially filed it as a class action in federal court, and then Toyota said, well, there's an arbitration clause. And every single thing that you...
Right there. When you said they didn't make them sign a waiver, arbitration is a form of waiver.
Arbitration is a form of waiver. Everything in America, from a credit card to a cell phone, you cannot sue on a class basis. And I said, perfect. You want to go to arbitration? Go to arbitration. And I initiated 150 arbitrations. I said, I'll beat you anywhere. I'll beat you in a house. I will beat you with a mouse. Like, I don't care where you want to try this case. I'm going to beat you. And then we started filing them individually in state court. I sued only the manufacturer because against the manufacturer, there's no arbitration clause. You only have an arbitration clause with the dealership. That's who you did the deal with. So I only sued the manufacturer. I said the manufacturer is the ones putting it on the road, and a court agreed with me. So we have just hundreds of people in an individual case against Toyota, the manufacturer.
So you have about 150 individual clients that you're working for in this regard?
150 in arbitration and 580 in the state court case, where it's all on an individual basis. And the judge agreed with us that it will stay just as an individual class action. Now, typically, if you want to sue as a class, it takes 2-3 years in order. You brought up the water case. I have a water case in Southgate, California, Southgate, Los Angeles, actually. There's some water that was killing people. I filed that as a class. You can fight for 2 or 3 years if that's going to become a class or not. The other case that I was telling you about, the solar panel, I didn't tell you about it, but well, to back up a second, these companies were getting tax credits because of the Biden administration. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act. We got to take a break. I can see from
I was just asking, is it time to take a break?
No worries. Let's take a break.
Let's see. Because she kind of keeps me, like I say, she keeps me on the rails because I don't want to produce a show that they won't take.
No, 100%.
I'm going to cut all of this out probably. Connie, do we take a break?
Under 1 minute, 45 seconds. You want to do it now?
Yeah. Let me just put it in there and then we'll come back at it. Because I could see that you were saying that it was about that time. Jason, yeah, man. Woo, you're a hella guy. How old are you? Like 35?
33, sir.
Yeah, you make me wish I was a young man again. I'd go partying with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these messages. Go nowhere.
When I see a new broadcast from the Southside Unicorn, I can't wait to listen to it. You just never know what he's going to say.
Step 1, train the people only to consume. Step 2, infiltrate adults with the news. Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use. Step 4, separate the right from the left. Step 5, separate the white from the black. Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate a problem, made a lie. Step 8, put it on the news every night. Step 9, when people start to fight and divide, take control. This is called situational design.
You are listening to the Southside Unicorn Show, hosted by my friend, Ken White. He'll be back after these messages.
Hey, it's your boy Ken White, host of the Southside Unicorn Show, and we are back for the fourth and final segment with Jason INGBERG. You know, I wish I was Joe Rogan sometimes, because then I could do 3-hour shows or 2-hour shows. If you like the content that you're seeing and would like to see and or hear more, you know what to do. Buy some merchandise. Give us a donation. Do something. We're on Cash App. It's real easy. Cash App, and our Cash App code is $SSUS44. If you can do that, thank you very much. Jason, I'm all ears, man. I mean, normally I'm the one running my mouth and saying blah, blah, blah. But I really want to know more about this car. I do see some issues here that I'm sure my audience wants me to ask you. When they did the test on this vehicle, okay, they didn't see these errors, the seats that don't stop heating, the sub-zero fueling system locking to the car. Don't they have a recall program?
Not for this car. This was a pet project by them, and they turned their eyes. They fudged a lot of the testing too. I have an insider that signed a sworn affidavit to this effect that they would fuel the car. They would fuel the car differently before they went to get it tested by the EPA. They would fuel it differently than it would be fueled for then would the people be fueling the car. But one thing that Donald Trump did do in this big, beautiful bill was he kiboshed a tax credit that these hydrogen makers were getting. So hydrogen makers were getting paid by the government to make this nonsense fuel, and he kiboshed that. Another case that I'm dealing with is solar panel fraud. Solar panel fraud is a big deal because there was a big federal tax credit also given by the Biden administration in his Inflation Reduction Act that Trump kiboshed. And that tax credit created so much fraud in the solar panel industry. There are really people hurting. So in both instances, there was definitely a lot of Democratic politics that created and nurtured this fraud that Toyota is perpetuating on its customers. I think that in a big way, these companies like Toyota and Hyundai are the only ones that sell these cars. They sold such a small amount of these cars. I told you in the third segment that they sold 25,000 of these cars. That's not a lot of cars. They've sold 25,000.
You can find 25,000 cars in a junkyard if you find one big enough. You know.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, they sell 375,000 cars a year each, Toyota and Hyundai. So in the span that they sold the 25,000 hydrogen cars, they sold millions of regular cars. They knew what they were doing. They knew if they sold a small enough amount of the cars, it wouldn't affect their brand, and they would be able to withstand the litigation and not really think much of it. And that is what's going on. And it's really unfortunate to watch that this is what they're inflicting on people.
With the deep pockets that both of them have, the exposure you're about to give them, the punch to the eye that's in your fist, you would think they'd just be writing checks and saying, give us back the car. You know, here's 80% of your money back. My bad.
Yeah, Hyundai told me to go F myself multiple times in lawyerly ways, of course. Toyota is more interested in trying to come up with a consumer way of dealing with this, customer-friendly way of dealing with this, and hopefully we're able to bring relief to people soon on that front. But it's definitely fascinating. I used to represent Hyundai. I used to represent car manufacturers. I did lemon law defense for Audi and Volkswagen. And so I have a sense of these companies, and this is truly bizarre behavior by them. They gave people free hydrogen fuel in order to lure them into this car, and then they abandoned them.
Free hydrogen fuel? What do you mean?
They gave them a debit card of $15,000 in order to buy the fuel, which sounds all sweet and everything. And similar to the McDonald's case, that woman that had the coffee in between her legs and she burnt herself.
Right.
And back in the 90s, the New York Post and many other nationally syndicated papers were blasting this woman, saying, oh, you're suing McDonald's, it's a cash grab, ambulance chasing type deal. But they neglected to mention that this woman had written a letter to McDonald's saying, please just pay my medical bills. And I won't sue you.
She had third-degree burns, right? She actually had meat coming off of her, right?
She had meat coming off of her. She needed to get skin graft surgery in the 90s. Yet in our heart, these brands do such a good job at marketing that it's like, you want to sue McDonald's? Like, for some reason, even the little guys are like, don't sue McDonald's. And it takes a lot of unearthing of the details. McDonald's knew that the coffee was being boiled at 200 degrees. They didn't even deny it at trial. They had thousands of complaints that people were burning themselves.
Degrees.
Yeah.
You could drop some ramen noodles down in your coffee and do both at the same time.
So similar with this thing, they are getting the complaints by the thousands, and they just don't seem to care. And yet, even when this woman called me, in my heart, one of my first cars was a Toyota Corolla. It was a great car. I didn't want to sue Toyota. It's an amazing thing how these brands really infuse you with a sense of loyalty to the point that you don't want to go to war with them. And it took a lot to unveil how much fraud and deception Toyota put people through in order to get a little bit of profit and push this ridiculous hydrogen pipe dream on people. And one of the things was this free fuel card, which makes it sound like pretty reasonable, like a good deal. In 2022 and 2023, it cost you about $50 to fill up your car, this hydrogen car. So you get a $15,000 fuel card. That's a lot of fill-ups.
Yeah, and let me put this in there. To the credit of Toyota and Hyundai, you gotta give them this much. The Murai broke the Guinness Book of World Records with an impressive 845-mile trip with 0 emissions. So when the car works, it works pretty damn good. 845 miles on a fill-up? Come on.
Can I cuss on this show?
I would ask that you not, but go ahead.
Then I will not. I will say that is complete bogus. I
know what you wanted to say. I know what you wanted to say. The Bulls wouldn't be too happy, but that's okay.
That is complete bogus. That never happened, that 800-mile radius. Part of the reason why I'm suing also is that I have 1,000 people. They're all walks of life You know, Mr. White, they come from every area of California. These people are not corroborating their stories before they call me. They're Latinos, they're working class, they're attorneys, they're doctors, they're school teachers from every
Black.
part of the state.
I know they identify that way. That's cool. They're black. Yeah.
They only sold this in California, but it's been up and down the state. People are telling me the same thing. They don't get more than 200 miles on this car.
Oh, with the $50? I mean, okay, they put $50 worth of the hydrogen into the car, and they only getting 200 miles.
Yes, sir.
So then Guinness Book of World Records got a problem.
Yes,
they're
fudging that. They're fudging that. There's a different prototype that they're using for that thing. It is not the car that you're seeing on the streets, but Toyota's brilliant with their marketing.
Oh.
Now, hydrogen has quadrupled in price, so it's now closer to $200 in order for people to fill up this car. So that $15,000 fuel card eats up real quick, and people are hurting because now they cannot afford literally to fuel up this car, where the fuel stations are always down. The fuel stations are always broken. These fuel stations, you know, when you go to fill up gas, there's an odorant in the gas at a stove, at a gas station. It smells something funky.
It's put in there, so the octane and all that stuff. Yeah.
Precisely. So you know if there's a leak. Hydrogen needs to be so pure that they cannot even put an odorant in it, because that would break the machines down. That's how finicky these hydrogen machines are.
So it wasn't ready for prime time when they did this.
There you go. I wish you were on the jury. There you go.
Well, you know, hey, because I see where you're going with this. And so with all due respect, attorney, let me ask you this real quick, because you hit me with so much. My brain is going, let's not compute. Okay, do you have at least 5 heartbreaking stories from these people that you can start to promote so that you turn the hearts of the people against Hyundai? You know what I'm saying? Because they're full of crap right now. I'm feeling for these people. What is the average cost of one of these cars?
$60,000 MSRP. They're given rebates. I have tons of heartbreaking stories, really heartbreaking stories. One guy comes to mind, Zachary Graham. He's a military kid, active in the military, and they lied to him about this car. He bought it. He got deployed out of state. He went back to return it because he thought he could return. They said, no worries, if you get deployed, just come back and return it. Then they denied him his ability to be able to return it. And he had to take a loan out in order to pay it off because he couldn't use it where he got deployed. I mean, the stories are heartbreaking. KTLE5 just did a piece where they talk actually to Mr. Graham and a number of other folks. KTLE5 was really good about that.
Yeah, it's that time. You know, what you're telling me brings back the, you know, you got, especially in the black community, you know, we have the minstrel men and the buck dancers and all that, people that just didn't do people well. And what I'm reminded of with your story right now, Jason, is the 1890s, the 1840s. There was a type of person called the snake oil salesman. The snake oil salesman would go through town and they'd give you these elixirs, and they'd swear that snake oil would cure, you know, psoriasis. It would cure whatever ails you. Take 2 sips of this at night, and when you wake up in the morning, I promise you'll feel like a new man. And by morning, they were already off to another town, and you still had your problems in this bottle of bull. You almost made me curse. This bottle of bull juice, you know, that you couldn't do nothing with. What I'm hearing is these guys are modern day snake oil salesmen. They sold these people something that actually has no efficacy good to it.
It's a lot worse because snake oil, at least if you're drinking something that's really orange juice and not an elixir, no harm, no foul. You're trapping someone in a car. It's a car-centric state, California. You really need a car in order to live. And if you're stuck in a car you can't use and you're someone that can't afford to just go get another car. I mean, people are crying. They're calling me every day, and I don't blame them. And Toyota's pretty heartless.
Because the economy of the car was the pitch, right? If Guinness Book of World Records is telling people you can get, I'm going to go snake oil salesman right now, you can get over 850 miles in this car, ladies. I'm telling you, on $50, y'all, you can go 850 miles. Well, to a person that's trying to commute, because that's what California is, without a car in California, you in deep kimchi. So I see what you're saying, but now one more question. Are you saying that this car was specifically sold in the state of California? Is it not sold anywhere else?
It is not, because you go try and convince the state of Texas to give $100 million to an Asian company. They'll say, no, thank you, sir. And no other state besides California was dumb enough to allow this. And for some reason, California is the only place where they planted hydrogen stations. We can get into a whole lot more. They put the stations in rich neighborhoods, but they sold the car to low income folks. I mean, it's really pernicious what they've done, really disheartening, and it should really destroy their brand. And I'll tell you something else.
I think you got the grit and the time. You're a young man, you're a smart man. I think over time, because you're not going to give up. I don't see that you're going to give up. Am I right?
No, I'm not going to give up, but I have to thank you for having me on, because the Southside Unicorn Show, maybe it's not an international sensation yet, but it is a widely listened to show, and it's independent media that they cannot control, and they care a lot about this. I know they care a lot about this because they're lawyers. I went on some woman's show. She's a really sweet lady out of Florida, Voices for Justice, Jen Hardy. It only had a few hundred views, and they were emailing me, stop doing media, stop doing. So they care. They care about this coverage. You put something in the show notes about how Toyota, there's allegations of fraud, those things bubbling up in the internet algorithm. They hate it. They're watching. You'll see Toyota comms people are going to be watching this show. I don't know if you could tell the analytics, but there will be people in Japan watching this show. They're watching this right now, and they should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing, because people
if
are
they're
really
going to be watching. Let me give them a word in my broken Korean that I like to use sometimes. 당신은 나빠요 사람.
How are you?
You got it right, Connor. You know what I said.
How are you so familiar with Korean culture?
Well, because remember that 10-year-old boy I told you about?
Yes.
He grew up and he had to get out of the south side of Chicago because the gangs tried to beat him up and make him join a gang, and he intuited, I'm not going to join a gang. My mama would kill me. So if I'm going to die, y'all just need to go ahead and do it. So make a long story short, when I graduated high school at 16, I was a member of the Greater Chicago Area Program for Gifted Children, but there was no money back in those days. Back in the 70s, there was no money. You weren't getting, like they show on the podcast shows and stuff, these young fortunate blacks who are getting 20 and 30 and 40 scholarships, I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the 70s. That kind of stuff didn't exist. In fact, if you were an intelligent black human being, you had a bullseye on your back. You know what I'm saying? They weren't trying to help you. They were trying to take you out. And so my only way out was to join the United States Air Force. And at the age of 17, I said, Mama, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. She's like, boy, what am I signing? You signing for me to go into the Air Force. She's like, what you going to do with that? I'm like, listen to me, Mama. I would rather get paid to get shot at than to get shot at for free. And so, you know what I mean? I'm going to get, as a black man, or one that is identified as a black man, I'm going to get shot at one way or the other. That's just, see, as a white man, even when I'm telling you this, it sounds alien. But I don't like him. But there was a black congressman who was just on major TV saying that racism is causing health problems for blacks. I don't like him. He pulled the fire plug, and so he can kiss my hand. Anyway, I don't like him. But I believe he touched on a little bit of something. There is an incredible different type of stress that exists for the black man that the rest of the world will never know. And so my familiarity with Korean and Papungan, Ilano, all these different languages is when I joined the Air Force, I was a Pacific Air Force person. So I was in Korea, Japan, Guam, and I love people. So when I would get off duty, I put on my civilian clothes. I got a picture I would love to show you. It's a picture of a Korean child in a taxi next to mine who had never seen a black human being before in their life. And because I was always taking pictures, that picture is priceless because that kid was like, but I didn't take offense to it. I thought it was funny, because I knew he had never seen a black person. So make a long story short, I endeavored to learn the languages of the countries that I was in because
beautiful. What did that? I interrupted you. What does that phrase mean? That you?
당신은 나빠요 사람. That means you are a very bad person. And I'm talking to you, Toyota and HYUNDAI. I'm talking to both of you guys. We're gonna be coming at you. I'm gonna go ahead and try to make this show go viral because, okay, what did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. say? He said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You guys did wrong. You got 25,000 people out there that you hustle. You got big pockets, big bank. My boy with the greasy hair, he got some money. Looks like the state of California got some money because Texas would have told you, get out of here with that snake oil, boy. But you got lucky. You came in here and you ran your little experiment. Have a heart. Can't we all just get along? Get them people back their money, damn it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would vote for you for president. I'll tell you that.
Well, there's a story. Connie's laughing already. There's a story behind that. I'll give it to you real quick. Ever since I was a child, I was enamored with the number 44. My bedroom, if the bedroom still existed, but it got sold after my mom passed away, my bedroom wall was speckled with the number 44. When I'd give my homework to my school teacher, in the upper right-hand corner, in addition to my name, I'd have 44 on there. One day, as a 15-year-old, I went into a tantrum, and all I kept saying was 44, 44, 44, and I couldn't shake it. And my grandmother, who was part Indian, she looked at me with those deep black eyes, and she said, don't join the Air Force. You go to the University of Illinois, and you get that law degree you always talked about, and you will become the first Black president of the United States of America. My cousin Cheryl fell back in her chair because she's like, Kenny, you always wrote 44 on your papers. And Barack Obama became the 44th president of the United States of America out of Chicago. Life has these, you know what I'm saying? If you look at the algorithms of life, things do some weird stuff. So all I am is an apple seed that fell on concrete.
That's
I
cool.
didn't fall in the dirt. I fell in concrete.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's really, really cool. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You're understanding the plight of these drivers. It's been quite a road. They absolutely knew what they were doing. They failed. They gave, like I said, 45 Murais to the Quebec province in Canada, and the government gave it back after just 9 months.
Whoa.
You ever heard of that? You ever heard of that? Someone giving back 45 free cars? And the reason they said that was because 2 out of 3 times it would fail to get fuel at the pump that they had installed for them, because the pump would break down, the pump would freeze onto the car. So the Quebecian government actually gave back these Murais, and it was one Hyundai car too, which they gave back. So they have the data. They know this car is not reliable.
And did that occur before they started proliferating these cars in California?
During in tandem. But by now it's 2025. It definitely happened years ago, and they're still selling the car. You can go to Toyota of Santa Monica and buy one of these Murais. You can go to Toyota of Longo and buy one of these Murais.
And none of these people that have been so injured by them, I mean, come on.
I think we froze up on Mr. White here, but to answer your question, what you're saying, what you were getting at was none of these people got injured so much, and people did get injured. People are complaining, and they're just putting their heads in the sand. The problem with this as a story is that it's kind of anticlimactic because people are just in a situation.
I got disconnected from the internet for a minute. The Murai is a mirage, is what I was going to say. Just make the posters and go out front of Toyota. Murai is a mirage.
Yeah, we protested out in City Hall in Sacramento and Los Angeles. That's what KTLA5 did some coverage. You can go see it. There's a YouTube clip that has like 30,000 hits of just us protesting. The Murai is a lie. The Murai is a lie.
Is a lie, yeah. Do not buy the Murai. It's a lie. Oh, I'm being told that I really went over. I want this show to produce on the cable station. Looks like we're going to have to get together again. There's another attorney that I know. Her name is Deborah Pauley. She's a constitutionalist. Would you care to endeavor and let us all come back together?
I would be honored to come back to your show. I had a hell of a time. I have a bunch more questions. I restrained myself. I don't want to get scolded by you. I restrained myself from peppering you with more questions about your very interesting life and journey. And I'm very grateful for the work that you do in the world and for having me on the show. And I'd love to come back if you would have me.
Thank you so much. Jason INGBERG, attorney at law, a man who has compassion, a man who works for the people. I'm honored to have met you too. So I hate that we have to go, but ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. So here's the signature close. Hey, listen to me. There's no place I'd rather be. There's nothing more I'd rather do than being right here doing this show for you. I'm your host, Ken White, with attorney at law Jason INGBERG, and we are out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, brother. That was